What's up, everybody? Flash Piece back for another sports video. NBA. Last night was a crazy night for the NBA free agency. That started at 6 p.m. And while I was wrong on my prediction with the Philadelphia 76ers with regards to keeping Jimmy Butler, I was surprised to hear that there was some truth to the sign and trade rumors that were out there. However, the one for Houston was not real, or had no wings to it or no legs to it. But I was surprised to find out that Jimmy Butler was traded to the Miami Heat, though it still is yet to be finalized, but it seems like both teams are committed to it. And the Sixers in return received Josh Richardson, the young 25 or 26-year-old promising shooting guard that they have. A very good defensive player, also a decent scorer. I believe he averaged over 16 points last season on a team that did not really feature him. And I think he would find a good place here with the Philadelphia 76ers. He's definitely an upgrade over J.J. Redick, while Redick being one of the better premier shooters in the league, he was a big-time defensive liability, which is something that obviously the Sixers brass wanted to upgrade. Here on ESPN's Get Up, a few of their commentators had spoke on it, and I'm going to comment as well. So here we go.
$180 million. He's coming back to Philadelphia. All of this is Woj reporting, by the way. I'll preface all of that. Then just about 2 hours later, five-time All-Star Al Horford, 4 years, $109 million, leaving the Celtics, going to their arch rivals in Philadelphia. That news came just minutes after we got word that the Sixers were finalizing a sign-and-trade deal to send Jimmy Butler to the Heat. Miami is working on options to complete the deal. So to sort of summarize what happened in Philadelphia as we take a look at what their starting lineup could look like next year, Josh Richardson.
Basically, the two moves the Philadelphia 76ers made last night was, number one, in signing Tobias Harris to a 5-year, $181 million contract, which many would say is overpaying him. And they may be right, but what player in the NBA today is not overpaid? I don't think any of these guys are probably really worth that. However, hey, if the sport has that type of revenue, that type of money is being brought in, and this is the going rate, and this is what players are making, and really it's nothing incommensurate with when compared to what the owners are making. Hey, I'm all for it. It's fine. This is what the Sixers had to do. They targeted Tobias Harris as an upcoming young player. He's only 26 years old, which means much room to get better. And he was a good fit with Ben Simmons. He's a nice floor spacer, a guy that can get his own shot as well. And really, when you look at with the possibility of playing without Jimmy Butler, he actually, as it shows here, was able to average 18.2. That's with Butler. And he averaged almost close to 20 points with the Clippers. What we would expect without Jimmy Butler on the floor is numbers probably similar to what he was doing with the Clippers, where he almost made the All-Star team. So I believe the Sixers did what they had to do with Tobias Harris. I have no problem with that move. The next move was Al Horford, which was something I was not really in favor of, because what they did was they signed him to a 4-year contract. I don't know if he'll be playing out the extent of that contract. And the contract is $97 million in guaranteed money, and about another $11 million, if I'm not mistaken, in bonuses. So what they are thinking is they're going with a defensive team, and they want some more experience, which is understandable. A guy who knows how to win, though he has not won the big one. Al Horford has been around virtually forever, and he's a good winner. And it also helps to weaken the Boston Celtics, which is always a good thing from the standpoint of a Philadelphia 76ers fan. So, I wasn't really feeling this move last night. However, after giving it some time and sleeping on it, I don't have a major problem with it. Now, as we stated, picking up Josh Richardson, I did like that move a lot.
Coming over from Miami as part of this deal. They bring him in. They bring Horford in at big money. They keep Tobias Harris. They lose Jimmy Butler. This was a team that was one bounce away from maybe beating Toronto, and who knows what happens from there. So I'm going to ask the question this way right now. That roster you just saw put up there.
Before they go quickly on Jimmy Butler, I did not want to lose Jimmy Butler. I wanted to re-sign him and basically run it back what we had last season. However, the Philadelphia 76ers and Jimmy Butler cannot agree on the number of years and whether or not he wanted to be here. There's some speculation out there on the part of some people on the radio, in particular, locally. We have Ike Reese on the Marks and Reese show. I don't think Marks is on today, but they're talking a bunch of bull crap to me about speculating on whether or not he got along in the locker room. And you're going to have all of that come out now because these men, they're like women in that they like to gossip about the life of these players, what they do at home or what's going on in the locker room. And really, these players are not telling these guys any damn thing. They don't know anything about that. So on my channel, I don't get into a lot of that. I really don't deal with a whole lot of things that I can't verify because to me that's not it's not a becoming trait of a person that tries to live his life based on integrity. So I don't do that. So I have no idea about that. If Jimmy Butler does not come out and say he couldn't stand Brett Brown, if the players are not saying it, then I don't go with it. Now, one could argue that this happens everywhere he is. I don't know if that is the issue. I think ultimately Jimmy Butler moves a lot because he is like while he's a great player, I would put Jimmy Butler as a top 10, 20 player in the league, somewhere around 19 going to 25th, right? So with that type of player, especially if that type of player believes he's better than he really is, he tends to be sent around because if he does have any type of attitude thing with him or anything of that nature, teams are not likely to put up with it because what they'll do is they will weigh things. They'll weigh the headache versus the benefit. And oftentimes they don't see him as being a good enough player to deal with it. And this is not anything new. LeBron James is probably the biggest headache in the league. But since LeBron James is a top player in the league, top two, possibly still the best player in the league, at least on offense anyway at this stage in his career, teams are more apt to deal with his nonsense.
Is that the team to beat in the Eastern Conference this year?
If they're healthy, I believe so. I still think they're struggling to not have that late game finisher, right? Joel Embiid has to take that next step. That's what Jimmy Butler was. And when you look at 5 years, $180 million for Tobias Harris, you would hope that he's going to take another step because that's a lot of money for a very good player, but not one that a lot of teams are willing to give a fifth year to, let alone a fourth year max.
What Richard Jefferson brings up is an argument that many people like to bring up for some reason, and that is the importance of having the late game guy that's going to take the last shot. And a lot of this comes from us watching a lot of Michael Jordan and watching a lot of Kobe Bryant, where teams will just elect to, instead of running an actual play, they'll go to just the one guy, the best player on the team, give him the ball and just say, bring us home, which is sometimes an effective way to win, but is not the most effective way actually to win. And it's not a reason to keep a guy as opposed to not keeping a guy if you feel that your overall team will be better by trading him. And that remains to be seen whether or not that is the case. Yes, Jimmy Butler was a good finisher for the Sixers last year. He was a guy that was given the ball in the fourth quarter. But apparently that's not enough for him. Maybe he wants to be the man over there in the Miami Heat, and we'll see how that goes.
Max contract.
Look, I don't think they're the team to beat in the Eastern Conference. I think the Pacers are. And now this is sneaky, off the radar. We're not talking about.
What the hell did he just say? Hold on, let me back that up. That's what did he just say?
Correct. Look, I don't think they're the team to beat in the Eastern Conference. I think the Pacers are. And now this is sneaky, off the radar. We're not talking about.
What?
I think they're the team to beat in the Eastern Conference. I think the Pacers are. And now this is sneaky, off the radar. We're not talking about them a lot today.
The Indiana Pacers? Who is this guy? Who the hell is this guy, man? Is he some type of Indiana fan or something? I gotta look this guy up. I gotta find out who he is, then look him up, because that's the most ridiculous thing I've ever heard.
But I think when you look at what the Sixers did yesterday, losing Jimmy Butler, all that you said, and then a guy that we didn't even mention there, J.J. Redick.
Yeah.
Okay, so you're losing another guy that can stretch you on the outside and shoot the ball excessively well.
First of all, J.J. Redick is 35 years old, man. How long are you going to keep a guy that's 35 years old? Josh Richardson is a clear upgrade. And another thing about a lot of these guys is, man, they don't really study the team as well as they should in order to get up there and speak. And I understand there's 30 teams, so they only know the big names. They don't really go in on a team. Like last season, they said the Sixers, we didn't have any shooters, whereas we had Landry Shamet, who ended up being traded for Tobias Harris. So from the standpoint of a Sixers fan, we know we have shooters. Right? Josh Harris. Josh Richardson at certain points in his career shot 39% from the floor. Tobias Harris, when he was with the Clippers, shot over 40%. It dropped to around 35 here, but that's still a respectable clip. He's a guy you're not going to leave open. Al Horford can hit the three if you leave him open, right? So the problem with the Sixers is Ben Simmons and his unwillingness to shoot the basketball. This is the thing that the Sixers really need, is for Ben Simmons to take that step to actually be willing to shoot the basketball. I'm not talking about necessarily three-point shots, but when you're wide open, if you could take a 15-footer, this is what we need.
So you lose that, you become a less proficient team from beyond the arc. You have Ben Simmons, his limitations as far as who he is as a shooter of the basketball in a shooter's league right now. I have concerns about
that. Feels to me like the biggest question. Look,
now, what is your argument for the Indiana Pacers? The Indiana Pacers, is a team that the Sixers could beat prior to actually adding Jimmy Butler and Tobias Harris. The old Sixers, when we had Dario Saric and Robert Covington, would make quick work of the Pacers, even when they had Oladipo. They added Malcolm Brogdon from the Milwaukee Bucks. Okay, and what is that going to do? Does that really propel the Indiana Pacers past this Philadelphia 76ers or the Milwaukee Bucks or even Brooklyn now that they've added Kyrie Irving and DeAndre Jordan? I don't think so. How in the hell can this guy believe that the Indiana Pacers are the team to beat? There is no way in the world the Indiana Pacers will have the number 1 seed in the East next season. There's no way.
Jimmy Butler emerged as probably their most important non-Embiid player in the playoff run last year because the limitations of Simmons are so evident in the postseason back-to-back years. Can he take a dramatic step forward as an offensive threat to become the player that they project him to be? Because if so, then they look extraordinarily good.
No,
agreed.
They do look
Can
good.
Can he do that?
I don't think so. In my opinion,
Can he shoot at all?
No.
I mean, right now he won't even try.
I think he'll continue to grow. Let's start with a 15-footer. Let's start with a 17-footer. But I just don't think, again, you talk about losing JJ. Shooting is a premium. There's not a lot of shooters out now. Now, you can try and go and find some, but when you look at the deficiencies that their team had, what they added, yes, they're going to be big, they're going to be strong, they're going to be a very good defensive team, but you need a guy that at the end of the game, you can throw the ball to, right? There's very few of them. There's Kawhi Leonard, there's Jimmy Butlers, LeBron James. There's a few guys out there, Kevin Durant, Kyrie Irving.
This is a little overrated thing. I mean, sure, it's nice to be able to have that guy you just pass the ball in, but there's also other things called like execution. How about call a good play to put it on a coach, which is a question mark. Brett Brown, he's not one of the best timeout play calling coaches who can draw up plays that result in points out of timeouts. That's where the challenge is going to come in, because it isn't always about playing hero ball at the end of the game. Like, people always talk all this crap about hero ball, but then the moment, they talk about what a team lacks, they go into that. We don't have guys that can get a bucket. Well, Tobias Harris can get a bucket. So can Josh Richardson get a bucket, And Ben Simmons, is his job to set up buckets for others. So, this is just nonsense. How about execute a good play, draw up a good play, and execute?
They don't have one of those guys right now. And your best player most likely can't even be on the floor, Ben Simmons, in the last 30 seconds of a game because
Ben Simmons is not the best player on the Sixers, sir. That would be Joel Embiid.
Free throws and his inability to space the floor. So they have a lot more questions than they do answers right now.
Yeah, you start to look at holes.
That is nonsense. The Sixers do not have more questions than answers. That's retarded. That's stupid. Of course, they have more answers than questions. You're talking about a lineup of Joel Embiid, Al Horford. That is the best front court in the East. Then you're talking about Ben Simmons, who is an all-star point guard for all of his deficiencies. He's a great defensive player. He's a great playmaker. He is a great rebounder. Okay? So he does have a lot of different assets. I mean, that you have. Now, we're looking for him to develop just like any young player. Okay? Josh Richardson, one of the best young wing players in the NBA, in my opinion. He is the only player, actually, I saw a stat the other day, to, in his first 3 years, to have the average 100 steals, 70 blocks, and to shoot over 35% from three, right? Yeah, or to shoot, what was it, 100 threes, or the 300, something like that. He's like the only young player to do it. Right? So this is like actually an asset. It was an upgrade there. It's not a question mark. It isn't all about just shooting just three-pointers. You know, even then, you have Mike Scott who can shoot three-pointers. There's a couple rookies that we drafted. I know people like to act like rookies don't, exist, but they do. They do actually add to teams if you put them out there. All right, and then we also have a couple other rookies from last year who we expect to make a jump this year. Shake Milton, right, actually is going to try out for a starting point guard. And then there's also a chance where the Sixers can grab other players. You have Danny Green, I believe, is still available, who would be a good fit.
The offensive side, and then that puts and applies more pressure to what you do defensively, right? And then you go, okay, health-wise. Now you're counting on Joel Embiid, by the way, to be healthy all season long. And
here we go with this crap. You know what I mean? We have to assume health, sir. Like all of that, with any team, with any guy out there, we can always go with the health route. That is the weakest thing to bring to an argument.
They have some depth down there with Al Horford that can help spell him a little bit. But when you limit yourself offensively, that's when you need Embiid to step up even more. So if he's not healthy, if he's not right,
So according to him, you limited yourself based off of what? J.J. Redick? Okay. And Jimmy Butler. Okay. All right.
You go offensively for this team. It's all going to fall on Harris, and then Simmons is going to be your
I just want to say this, and we'll see if you agree. I love the signing of Horford for them for exactly the reason you just described, that you do not want Joel Embiid to be the guy who has to carry the load over the course of the 82 games based on injury and all the rest of that, and you let Horford step in there. Why are you looking at me like that? I love this move, and I love this fit.
No, I actually do love the move. No, I love the move. I was just processing something else. But what I really look at, with Al Horford is that veteran leadership. That's something that, there's a growth and there's a maturity that you want these Philadelphia 76ers to then take. Ben Simmons is still very, very young, right?
And he's elite in a lot of other areas.
And he can shoot the ball, so they can play together. If you need Joel Embiid to rest, then all of a sudden you can put him to the 5. And
I agree. Ben Simmons and Al Horford will play very well together. Two high IQ players who understand how to play basketball. They will play very well together, I believe. Al Horford is a guy that is an excellent screen setter, which is something that'll help Ben Simmons a lot. He's a guy that's not going to drop the ball when you do pick and rolls. Okay, he's an excellent help defender as well as rim protector. Right, so all of these things are great. I believe the Sixers will possibly have, if not the best defense in the league, I believe they will be a top 3 defensive team in the NBA. One of the things they wanted to address was the perimeter defense. You had Josh Harris. You pick up Matisse Thybulle from Washington, who was the best perimeter defender in the entire draft. Zaire Smith, who was considered the best perimeter defender in last year's draft. The 76ers have definitely addressed those issues, and I think adding Al Horford only strengthens that. So we'll see.
Anchor your defense and do a lot of the same things.
So, to sum up, if Kawhi Leonard stays in Toronto, let's give them the credit that they are due. They're the defending champions. Yes. They're the team to beat because they don't seem to be losing basically anything. If Kawhi Leonard goes to the Lakers or the Clippers, in your mind, as we sit here today, who's the best team in the East?
The best team in the East, if Kawhi leaves, I still like Milwaukee because I want to give the reigning MVP. He's taken steps.
I respect that answer. I believe the Sixers do not fear Milwaukee whatsoever. However, I respect that answer. But something like the Pacers is just ridiculous.
every single year in Giannis. They've continued to build, and I want to believe that he's a guy that we have seen him add. What we're looking for from Ben Simmons, we've seen that from Giannis. He's add components to his game. So if we need to see him take another step, I believe that he will continue that progression.
I'll go with the Pacers.
Okay.
And part of the reason why is because they just got Malcolm Brogdon.
Yeah.
And then you got to expect that.
Part of the reason why is the Pacers must be paying your ass. That's got to be the reason. Malcolm Brogdon is not enough to propel them over the Sixers, dude. Are you serious?
Oladipo, can he come back to the player that he was? And even though they lost Bogdanovich, I love the fact of what they brought in. Jeremy Lamb comes in as another guy that can shoot the ball on the outside.
Jeremy Lamb, come on, man.
They've got Sabonis, they've got Turner, they've got some good young parts there. I think the Pacers are a team that we haven't paid enough attention to that is climbing in the East.
You know who are the biggest winners of the entire day yesterday? The people who published the preview issues of NBA magazines, because you got to follow all this. I mean, he's dropping all that.
All right, man, that's what these guys have talked about. I just wanted to weigh in. I'll use this opportunity to weigh in on what I thought of the Philadelphia 76ers and their trades they made last night. Next, I'll be putting out a video about the Lakers and Kawhi Leonard, who is yet to make his decision known yet, as well as what's happened in Brooklyn with KD and Kawhi Leonard. All right, so slap a like on this here, subscribe, man, if you like this type of content. You know, we're going to be bringing it every day, hopefully, man, at least a few times a week. So with that, you know, Philan speaks, I'm out.
To make a living. The corner was our Rock of Gibraltar, our Stonehenge, our Taj Mahal, our monument.